ahead and get started here. Just to introduce this webinar and our topic for today, are your prospects ready to become your clients? And then as the little picture here shows, are you ready? Are you ready to have clients? Are you ready to onboard them? So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about how to know when your prospect is ready to take action and become a client. We're going to talk about how to develop a messaging plan and system that captures the attention of your prospect when they are ready, and how to get your business ready to fulfill promises when your prospect says, yes, I'm ready to work with you. So moving into the next slide, just some intro here. I'm Jamie Skolteti. I'm your host for the webinar, or hostess, and I specialize in helping professional coaches and consultants to systematize their business, maximize visibility, and attract ideal clients. And my guest, as always, my favorite person is Mark Canty. And Mark is a coach for coaches. And his company is releasedynamics.com, but don't leave the webinar. Just note that for later. His company is dedicated to helping coaches and consultants to release their full potential by applying practical business and marketing strategies. And the question that he loves to ask, how would your business and life be different in the next 90 days if you could attract the kind of client you want at the rate that you need? So I also want to mention a couple of things as we kind of housekeeping here. Welcome in everybody. I see people joining us. We also offer at the end of this webinar, so please do stay. We offer a special bonus here, one free month into our program, Upscale Success Strategies. So stay tuned for a little button. You'll be able to click on that. You'll be able to try it before you buy it. We are dripping content every week. There's some really great stuff. And so you'll be getting access to that, plus access to past and future webinars, monthly live implementation calls. Mark and I both are on that call every month. So you can be in the hot seat if you need some help in your business. Bonus resources like worksheets, guidebooks, and some valuable free services. So stay until the end and we'll share with you exactly how you can access and join us with that. So with that, please, the last thing I want to mention is I'm going to be monitoring our chat. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that Mark can get his presentation loaded in. But I want to mention that I'm going to be monitoring the chat. Please do post questions, ahas, anything that comes to your mind. We will address in this call live. And so I just want to mention that. Feel free to post anything and I'll be monitoring that. And I know Mark likes participation, so we'll do that. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mark. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you, Jamie. And I just want to make sure that you can see my screen. So one of the things we talk about, if you haven't been on one of our learning events or webinars before, is I borrowed this from David Sprague, great little tip I thought, and that's if you want to say yes to something, just type in the word 1. It's nice, or the number 1. And if you want to say no, then type in 2. So I'll just do a quick check-in and ask for a 1 if you can see my screen with 3 youthful, exuberant-looking individuals.
Yep, we see it. We've got some 1s coming in.
Great. And the other thing, just to let you know, too, as Jamie just mentioned, we work as a team here. So I can't see her screen, so I can't see the comments. So she's going to kind of feed those back to me as they come in. And that'll be perfect because then I can stay focused on the content and she can give me questions so that we can make this interactive. And please, please, please do interact. I know that people are at different stages of their business and their growth. And the reality is, if you're on this call, then you have a business. You want to have a business, or you're in business right now, which means being proactive and stepping out is really, really important. I know it's very easy with so much content out there and so much information that it's very easy to slip into that kind of saddle where we want to just be spectators. And, you know, it's a lot more fun being on the field and being a participant. So please participate and jump in and ask questions, and let's get involved. And I will try and prompt you as well as often as I can, because I'm working on that. As you know, I love to talk and talk and talk, and it's one of my strengths. And on the other side of that, I need to learn to ask more questions and maybe not talk as much. So let's talk about readiness. We've already kind of launched into this and had a segue into this whole topic, but sometimes, I think it's cool to look up, a definition and see. I don't always do this, but some of you might be like me. I think I saw Ashley on the call. I know Ashley is a fellow wordsmith. She loves language and grammar, and she's wonderful at correcting me when I when I make mistakes, and I appreciate that, Ashley. But she's probably like me in terms of sometimes does this. And readiness, when we look at this definition, I thought it was just perfect for what we're talking about in terms of how this applies and how we can apply this definition. So first of all, the state of being fully prepared for something. And we're going to go into this in a little more depth. So, the question is, are you prepared? Are you really prepared to operate your business the way you want it to receive customers? And so often we're focused on the readiness of the customer. We want them to be there and ready to sign on and join us. But are we really ready ourselves? So we want to talk a little bit about that. The willingness to do something. Are they willing to take action? So that's another component of readiness, particularly when it comes to people that you're wanting to do business with. They may be putting all the signals out in terms of understanding that they need help or that they have an issue, a problem to solve, a conflict to resolve, but are they willing to do anything about it? And sometimes we run into that, don't we? Immediacy, quickness, or promptness. Now, this is another big one for me, because I think in today's age, if you will, or zeitgeist, you might call it, there seems to be kind of this frenetic activity going on where there's almost a sense of urgency around everything. And of course, a lot of this comes from media, from two sources. One from the news, constantly creating this experience that there's a crazy, wild world out there. And then the other is the internet, I think, drives a lot of this. It drives, someone once said that once we go online and we turn on our computers, we all adopt ADHD. We all have it. We're infected by it. And I really believe there's some truth in that too. So it's important to understand this concept of readiness and how we define it. So often, like I said, we're looking at our prospects ready? What is their state of readiness so that we can engage with them and start to do business with them? But I would suggest that there's another component here that's more important and that many people overlook, and that is, are you ready? So often I see it over and over and over again. People have a certain, maybe a methodology or something that they've just kind of latched onto. They know something about one thing, and they think because of that, they're ready to launch and hang out their shingle and get into business, if you will, and start working with people. But the reality is, it's important to begin with you and then think about your prospects. So that having that confidence in you and what you're doing is what's going to allow you to be present to the prospect who's in front of you. So are you ready? Are you really ready? Let's talk a little bit about this. Those of you who've been watching the webinars or are part of the program and see some of the webinars that we've had or participated in some of them, you'll know that I hit home on this a lot. And that's, there are 3 things you need to first get totally clear on. And of course, those of you who are working with me know this is something that we go in depth into, and we spend a lot of time, no matter how painful that may be, on finding out what exactly do I want from my business. So what does business success mean to you? Very specifically, it's important to have total clarity on that. And then what is the absolute minimum necessary that you need to achieve that? So describe your ideal business model. How is a business that's perfectly designed to achieve that goal? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What components does it have to it? And third, what is the fastest and easiest path to get that done? How can I get there? Because so often we get caught in this idea that we need to have more and more and more, and we keep piling it on. So one of the little tips here, though, is it's impossible to ask that final question until you're crystal clear. So there is a certain sequence to this. You have to be very clear on what you want, and then you need to figure out exactly what it is, the minimum necessary to achieve it, before you can figure out what the path is and how you're going to get there. So really, really important to get clear on these things. Give me one if this makes sense to you. Does this fit and resonate with you? And also, let me get some ones on that. or some yeses or nos or question marks. And then I want a follow-up question to this is, do you have clarity? If you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you be in terms of clarity on these 3 points? And, maybe give us a rating there. Give us a number between, 1 or 0 and 10. How clear are you on these 3 things? Jamie, are we getting some responses?
Yeah. Ashley says she's seen this somewhere. It's familiar.
What's a little familiar?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, thinking about these things, readiness really starts with you. And when you're ready, then you're going to be able to meet people and be more aware and open to when they're ready. Because if you're focusing on yourself and you're in doubt and you have self-doubt and you're comparing yourself to others, you're taking up mind space and you're taking up energy. And that's not allowing you to even know whether somebody's ready or not. So let's take this one step further. So if we have clarity, what's the next step? Well, the next step is getting ready. So that's the pre-ready state, if you will. The next thing is moving into more deliberate focus. And that is, what exactly do I offer? If I know all those things, then what exactly do I want to offer the world? And then getting more specifically, what exactly can I offer a specific audience? What am I promising? What am I going to deliver? And I'm not talking about, I'm going to deliver this program that has these modules to it, and you go through 1, 2, 3, and it lasts this many hours, and here's how much it costs. I'm not talking about the how. I'm talking about the outcome, the benefit. So what is your promise? And it all kind of comes down to that, if you think about it. When somebody is ready to do business with you, that means that they know what they want and they believe that you're going to be able to help them get it. And the only way to communicate that is to be able to promise that to them. If you don't have a clear offer, if you don't have a clear promise, how can anybody know whether you're going to be able to help them or not? So this is that two-way street of meeting readiness by being ready. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Jamie, give me some feedback here.
Yep. I know it resonates with me. And yes, we're getting ones in the chat. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So the second part of getting ready then is choose. Who will you do that for? And how many times, I know Jamie and I both talk about this all the time, is how many times people come to us and say, well, I've got something that will appeal to everybody. You just got to help me get the word out. Well, is that realistic? Is that even something that you could make happen? So, when somebody comes with that sort of idea in mind, I would say, well, you're not really ready, because what if your service was able to be delivered and we were able to put that in front of 1 million people and they said, I want it. Yeah, I'm ready. Would you even be ready to handle 1 million people? I doubt you would. And yet many, many people, correct me, Jamie, if I'm wrong, but how many times do you hear this where people just say, I just need to get it out to as many people as possible?
All the time.
All the time. It's a
time.
Constant mindset, isn't it? That people think, you need to get it out there and I can sell as many of these as I can possibly get out there to the world. Yeah. Now, there's a disconnect there, isn't there? There's a disconnect in your ability to fulfill. So you better be ready. You better know what you're after. And the challenge with that is it's this kind of infinity thinking that if you're looking at the entire world and you want just a warm body, how can your mind get focused on how to deliver anything to just a warm body? Not only that, but there could be fear and intrepidation and things like that are even at a subconscious level rather than a conscious level of thinking, how on earth am I going to fulfill on this? So think about that. Who will you do that for? And the more specific you can get, the better. This was a blog post. I can't remember who shared this. Was it you, Jamie, that I got this from?
Yes, it was me.
I think, Jamie had shared this on her Facebook page, and I picked up on it. I think it was just yesterday, and I love it. It's just a brilliant, and in fact, I want to read it to you. I want to read this in its entirety. But the bottom line is, who are you ideally suited to serve? Who can you make that promise to? And as Seth Godin says in this article, what is the minimum viable audience? So this may seem counter to what you're thinking. You may be thinking bigger is better. The more I can get, in front of me, the better, and the greater the chances that I'm going to, have a powerful business. but the opposite is in fact true. And here's what Seth has to say. Minimum viable audience, the smallest group that could possibly sustain you in your work. If you could pick the members of this audience, who would you choose? Their dreams, their worldviews, their energy, it's all up to you. And by the way, if you've got a pen and paper handy, write these questions down, because this is a really important question. If you could choose, this is up to you. This is part of being ready with your business, because it's your choice at this stage of the game. Pick the members. Who is the audience? Who would you choose to do business with that you really want to appeal to? And then once you've defined that, then go deep, get really intimate. What are their dreams, their worldviews, their energy? It's all up to you, and it's up to you to figure that out and to understand that intimately. So if you could pick them and you needed to delight them because you had no one else available, would your product or service improve? If you had no choice but to ignore the naysayers, and by the way, they're not in your group, don't be concerned about the people that say, nah, not interested, or Jamie and I had this conversation the other day, no thanks. Celebrate those, because that's getting you closer to your minimum viable audience. I know that seems counterintuitive, but the no's get you closer to those laser focused yeses, okay? Or the people who don't think they need you or your work, would that force you to stop compromising and start excelling? So think about this. How does that help you get focused? Two things happen when you delight with your minimum viable audience. And pardon me, I'm tripping over my tongue today. One, you discover it's a lot larger a group than you expected, for one. And two, they tell others. So let's look at number one for a minute and talk about that for a minute. Is a lot of people think, oh, if I pick this really exclusive, tight, small group, then I won't be able to build a viable business from that. There's just not a large enough market. Is that reality? Pause for a minute and think about this. If you're thinking that the whole world is who you want to serve, that may be true. But then if you think about, well, I couldn't even serve those anyways. And if you're a coach and consultant, you need to be thinking about, well, how many people do I want to serve? How many people can I effectively serve? What is that? 5, 10, 15, 20 people in a month? I would suggest that if it's at the 20 or more, then you might not be able to provide a quality service and experience to those people. So we're talking about an audience, first of all, that really doesn't need to be that big and is probably a lot bigger than you think it is. It's not one. But what if you only needed 5 instead of the whole world? Does that make marketing a little bit easier? Does that make it more palatable instead of this huge task of trying to attract the entire planet to do business with you? So the second thing is they tell others. Why do they tell others? Because it's an intimate group. It's a small group that gets to know you and you get to know them, and you develop that intimacy and that relationship with them that they can't help but tell others, because you're changing their lives. You're having an impact on them. Now, if on the other hand, you aim for mass, or another word would be average, you'll probably be creating something that's average, which doesn't get you very far. So you've heard me use this story, I use it over and over again ad nauseum, I'm sure, to many of you. But the idea of, you go into a restaurant and they serve everything. And you ask the server, who shuffles over and is bored to tears, what's great? What's good on the menu? And they say everything. And as you go through that encyclopedia of different dishes, it occurs to you, how can they possibly be doing anything good if they're trying to offer so much? Versus that amazing steak restaurant, which is kind of ironic for me to talk about steak restaurants, seeing as I'm a vegetarian, but
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But the idea of specialty, right? The idea that if you are the best in town, you're typically focused on one thing, and people get to know it, because you're not average. You're not that average ho-hum diner. You're exceptional because you've been able to hone and focus your craft. So how do you do that? Through a minimum viable audience. So this may seem counterintuitive, but I really, really want you to get this message. Jamie, comments?
I have a comment, and then I have some comments in the chat too. I want to put an extra emphasis on point number 2 here on Seth's blog. They tell the others, and so that means you're talking about a particular group, a particular tribe. So typically, people of like-mindedness know other people in that same space. So, for me, I work with coaches. So when I'm working with a particular type of coach, let's say a career coach, they know lots of career coaches. So they're going to talk about me to their colleagues. So I just want to put an emphasis on the word the others. It's not just others in general. It's your ideal clients, ideally.
Exactly. And I love that, that concept and the word you brought up there, tribe. Where do people go? I think about, what's hot right now in my town. I think this is pretty popular across North America right now. It's becoming very, very hot, is this idea of breakfast restaurants. So, when you're in a conversation with, maybe you're at a party or some event or something, and somebody asks you a question, they usually don't just say, what's the best restaurant in town? Typically they'll say, I've got a hankering for a hamburger. What's the best hamburger restaurant in town? Well, I don't know why I keep talking about meat. What's the best? Maybe that's part of my longing, as because I only eat veggies. But what's the best burger restaurant? What's the best breakfast restaurant? So now all of a sudden you're talking about in a similar language, and you're part of that tribe, right? Oh, hey, we go out for breakfast all the time. This is an amazing town. This is my favorite. So now, it's true. Exactly what you just said, Jamie. They tell the others. So the others that are in that group. The same idea is, if I'm looking for a burger, they're not going to tell me about the best breakfast restaurant, are they? Because I'm looking for the best burger. So yeah, it really helps reveal and get you even more tuned in to your specific audience. And this is it's on the surface, it sounds like, a really simple concept. And it is, but I find that it's one of the most challenging things for people to get their heads wrapped around and to get focused on. And the biggest thing I want to point out here is this word, just choose. Because that's where we often get into an issue where we're judging and we're comparing, different groups. We're saying, well, what if this one has more money? Or what if I could get more customers here? Or so on and so forth. Maybe you just need to try one and give it a shot and focus on that for a while and see what happens. Does that make sense?
Definitely. And to take that even a step further, you can have a very narrow focus, but also have it be broad at the same time. So just, again, I'll bring up my own, thing. I work with coaches, but there's so many different types of coaches. So I can market to coaches in general, but I can also be very specific in saying, hey, I help leadership coaches, let's say. And so my messaging would align with that target market, but it's not limiting. So again, another example is like, I have a lot of clients that work with like C-level executives. Well, there's so many different job titles within that. So if you can really connect with all the different titles in that, you might get even further, but I agree with you. Keep it narrow, keep it one thing. But you can also see how you could play around with it and broaden out, yet still stay within that focus.
Yeah, and let me just make a refinement to that thought process, is that instead of the concept of broadening out, because I think there's danger in that word, is instead we need to get focused. So we need to be more laser focused. Right. What I'd rather do is look at it this way. Instead of broadening, say, okay, just in your example there, look at things in terms of offers or campaigns or silos, if you will. So put people into baskets that you're going to get hyper focused on.
Yes.
And then what you do is you do one at a time.
Yes.
So that's where, often we talk about this, Jamie, you and I have talked about this many times, is the concept of split testing. So, that's where you could say, well, I'm going to try, and my compelling offer, and I've got these C-level executives, and I believe that this is, the particular niche and industry that I'm working with, but this is the title on one hand that I understand and I believe they hang around, but I'm also seeing this other title. So I'm going to split test both and see where the best response is.
Yes.
So when I separate those, then marketing collateral and everything else becomes a lot easier to work with, because now I can have different pieces of marketing collateral. Although, again, we're getting into what I believe is very difficult for the solopreneur to do. If you have a team of people, yes, then you might try going after and siloing and having different campaigns and different offers for different subsets of the same niche, if you will. But for a solopreneur, the very best advice I could give is start with one thing and get hyper focused on that. Yeah. And then if in time you want to add another one, go ahead. But you may find that you get more than enough business by having that minimum viable audience to work with. Make sense?
Definitely.
So the third part of getting ready is design. So this is another area where people get, sometimes a little bit, they get things reversed. Sometimes they think, okay, all I need is my design. I have my product, if you will, all laid out, neatly packaged and ready to go. But I don't even know, what my offer is. I don't even know what benefit this is going to provide or how it's going to solve a certain problem or provide a certain result. And they might not have even decided, oh, I'm going to get laser focused like we just talked about, and who's the audience that I'm going to appeal to. So these things work in harmony, but you really need all three. Because if I'm really focused, first of all, if I'm going to make a promise that I'm going to get an outcome for somebody, I better have a pretty good idea of how I'm going to go about doing it. And I'm not talking about a canned approach, a business in a box where you've got step, 1 through 100. You're going to check off the boxes as you take them through it, and boom, they're done the program. That's being program or method focused as opposed to being outcome oriented. But what I am talking about is having a pretty good idea and a pretty clear package as to how you're going to solve somebody's problem. And at the same time, having customizable and flexible content within that package so that it can appeal to unique situations. Jamie, you with me there?
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely. So knowing where you're going to take people. I know Jamie and I've gone through this with her business. She has a very specific program laid out in terms of how she can help and serve people. But I also know that she's constantly getting feedback from clients, tweaking things, moving pieces around, making sure that they're going to work, because her ultimate goal is getting the outcome. So generating leads and getting that phone ringing, getting those contacts coming in is the ultimate outcome. But the way she's doing it is in a structured format that remains flexible in terms of always keeping the eye focused on the ball, which is the outcome. True, Jamie?
True. Always evolving. Yes.
Always evolving. The concept of Kaizen, if you will, which is Japanese for incremental improvement. So the question is, do you have a core program? And this is another area where I see a lot of people, particularly coaches and consultants, is, when you come to them or you land on their website, there's, I do leadership coaching. I can talk to your C-level executives. And, I can do a toast and a warming event. I can even roast your senior executive at your company dinner. And I can do a 3-hour program for your frontline staff. And I can do a 3-day workshop for your senior level managers. What are you offering? That's coming back to that restaurant with the encyclopedia of a menu. Let's get really focused here on one thing. I'm not saying that you have to deny yourself that other business. Hey, if it comes to you, that's great. But what I'm talking about is when you put that messaging out and when you've got all these things, how do you become really good at any one of those things? How do you become known as the expert, as the go-to person? So the idea here would be get to a core and find out, what is it, the core that I do? What do I do really, really well? What do I do better than everyone else? What am I passionate about? What do I do? And when I'm doing it, I don't even feel like I'm working. I'm just so in the moment with it. When am I in the zone? Think about the work that you offer and what is that component? And then there may be some fear and trepidation about saying, I don't know, as I want to just focus on that one thing. But that's what you need to do, is get focused on that one thing. And again, come back to that minimum viable audience that one thing appeals to. So let's shift gears a bit and talk more about the audience, if you will. And we're going to talk more about this readiness of the audience. So I love this. I picked this up. Rich Schefrin, who was a mentor of mine from years ago. I still read his stuff when it comes out. He was in retirement. I think I don't know where he is right now, but he just brilliant stuff. And he posted this quite some time ago. I think it was a couple of years ago on Facebook, and I loved it. I took a screen cap of it. But if you talk to people the way advertising talk to people, they punch you in the face. So I got to ask you, when you're marketing and when you're communicating and when you're out there, do you deserve a punch in the face? Think about that for a minute. Think about how your messaging is and where you're meeting people where they are rather than where you want them to be. And what I find is that many people, a good example of this, just a couple months ago, somebody came to me and wanted an ad done. They didn't want to talk about their business. They didn't want to know anything about the audience. They just wanted an ad done, one ad that they wanted to propagate and get out there about their product. I said, well, I can't do that. I can't help you put an ad together if you can't communicate with me an intimate knowledge of the audience that you're appealing to. And this is the challenge, is people just think that, oh, I just need to throw it out there. I just need to keep throwing stuff out there and hoping that somebody will jump on it. And not only that, but there's this sense of urgency, particularly those who, don't have a system, don't have a marketing system, don't have a lead generation system in place that they can count on. There's this sense of urgency and almost, I would say, this sense of panic that, give me somebody, anybody. And that's the challenge that they get into. So then there's this desperation and this idea that I'll do anything for anybody. So it's really important to think about this and think about, well, how could I communicate to prospects and people I want to do business with the same way I would maybe communicate with somebody if I wanted them to be my friend? And one of the biggest challenges is this idea of, sometimes I call it, throwing up on people. And believe me, I'm no saint when it comes to that. But the idea of, since when is more the solution to having too much? And this again comes back to that idea of being hyper-focused and minimum viable. Is we're in a shift now, not in a shift, we've gone through a shift where in the past it was, I don't have enough information, I need more information to make a decision. That was kind of the old buying model. Educate the consumer and then they will buy, because what they're lacking is knowledge. No more. In most cases, your consumer, your customer, your prospect knows more than you do. So if they know more than you do, how is the solution to their problem giving them even more? So what people are desperately crying out for is not more, but they're crying out for the solution, the right information. They actually want you to help them get rid of the 90% of the junk that they don't need. And they want you to help them get focused on exactly what they need in order to solve their problem, overcome a conflict, achieve a goal. They want you to help them get through to that narrow laser focus again. So do you know your audience? And do you know them intimately? Because this is where the rubber meets the road. Is if you know them intimately and you've really drilled down to understand them, then you'll have a good idea as to what they need, what they want, what they value. In many cases, you need to know that more than they know it themselves, and better than they know it themselves, so that you can build that relationship with them. And also, it's going to give you a very good idea as to where they are in this concept of readiness, because people are at different stages of readiness. So I'm going to think about what my next slide is here. Okay, so I want to share something with you, but let me talk a little bit more about this concept of where they are. Is coming back to that example of punching them in the face. Because your skill, and most people who come into any type of business don't necessarily come into it with marketing skill. They come into it with a technical skill. Now that could be, maybe it's marriage counseling. Maybe it's career coaching. It could be any number of things that you come with a specific skill set and knowledge and ability to work in. But typically you don't have that marketing knowledge or skill. And this is where we jump right to the chase and we say, well, I only want to, and I see this over and over again, a lot of the advertising that I'm seeing is looking to try and capture somebody right there in that moment when they're ready to buy. And they're forgetting everybody else. So they're not building relationships. And this is where I think we have a tremendous opportunity and also a tremendous responsibility, if you will, to build relationships. And the internet has offered us a tremendous opportunity here to be able to do that. So we have to layer what we do and build relationships over time, because a lot of people, again, back to that ADHD, that frenetic kind of world that we live in, where we think we need to solve, the problems now. We think people need their problems solved now. We need to slow things down. And as business people, we need to be patient. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about what I would call a customer-centered messaging strategy. Now, if we have an intimate knowledge, then we're going to have a pretty good idea when we talk to somebody where they are in terms of their readiness. But even then, it can be a bit of a guessing game. So the very best thing we can do with our messaging is try and meet people at various stages and build a relationship with them so that when they are ready, we're ready to meet them. So there's an opposite, kind of a yin and yang going on here, and also an opposite of what maybe we think of traditionally. So we're so ingrained in business about this concept of selling. So, this idea of pushing, I call it push marketing, where we just have to push ourselves on enough people. And if we push ourselves on enough people, our message on enough people, they'll buy. So that's like punching enough people in the face or they're punching us in the face because we're throwing up on them. So instead of doing that, what if instead we just said, well, what if we just worked with people and built relationships with them until they were ready? Maybe that's a different way of looking at things. So here's the way I like to look at it. First of all, we have to warm people up. So we have to have some sense of relationship. And some of you have listened to me for a while or come to any of our webinars, heard me use this metaphor analogy, and I always get them mixed up as to which one is which. But this idea that I want to meet somebody, maybe I want to go on a date, or maybe I just want to make a new friendship. So I'm at a public event. So how do I warm up to somebody immediately? Well, hopefully I make eye contact with them, smile, look across the room, somehow get their awareness and their attention that I'm there. And then I would go to the next stage, which would be to introduce myself, right? Hi, I'm Mark. And to engage with them in that way, because by introducing myself, I would say, hey, I'm Mark, and then ask a question. What's your name? The next level would then be to educate them. Why am I here? Well, I'm at this event, and it's a networking event. I'm in this business, and I'm looking for more clients. And here's specifically what I do and what I offer. Educate them about what you do. And then you could make the offer. If they go, wow, that's interesting, that sounds like me, then you might make the offer of saying, well, you know what? It sounds like, we've got something to talk about here. How about we make an appointment to go for a coffee, and we'll talk more about, what's going on in your organization and how I might be able to help. So taking people through this cycle, as opposed to the idea of constantly just offering and offering and offering and hoping that we're going to hit enough people who are desperate and ready to buy. Now, if you take that concept and then you cycle back through and do that over and over and over again, then you have a messaging strategy that can repeat. It can be systematized, it can be duplicated, and it can be what we call evergreen. It can be working for you all the time if you're marketing in this way. Jamie, would you like to chip in? You've got some comments, or are there any questions or thoughts about this process?
Yeah, I thank you. I'm a big fan of the evergreen. Everything should always be relevant. And what Mark's talking about here is building that relationship. And I'll just tell you real quick, I'll tell you a story, and then I'm going to back it back up. I got a new client this week that engaged with me about 4 years ago, and now she's ready to work with me. So it took some time, a lot longer than I would hope, but that's kind of how it goes. So she's been kind of hanging back, but she's been getting my content. She's thought of me. She's referred people to me along the way in these years as well. But so it's just about having content that is building and building and building, and letting them know, look, I'm not pushing myself on you, but here I am. And when they're ready, they're going to remember you. They'll look you up. They'll find you. If they forget your website, they will figure out a way to get back to you. So I love this concept. Yes.
Yeah. So it gives you this idea of your messaging, and the way you're communicating with people goes through, this cycle, this idea of finding people where they're ready and what's going on in their lives right now. So, that example of meeting somebody in an event, getting their attention, this is all marketing stuff, right? We need to get somebody's attention. Then we want to engage with them. What many people do is they get somebody's attention, and then immediately they throw an offer on them. Okay. They skip some of these steps.
Yeah.
And yet this is what we need to go through in terms of like a buyer's journey or a customer journey. Is we all go through this. Is first we get warmed up to an idea and a company and a person. Then we ask some questions. We get engaged in the process. Then we get some information so that we can anchor in and get more confident about our decision. And then the offer comes at that perfect moment when we've done all that and we're ready to go. So another way of looking at this, and let me get a little more specific now in terms of I want to give you, kind of like I did in the last webinar, I want to give you some specific action steps in terms of how this would look. What would this look like? So obviously, first you need to get their attention. And there's a number of ways of doing that. And you may already be doing them, but obviously you have to be visible. You have to be finding vehicles and ways to get your message out and to be interacting with people. Now, that could be something as simple as sending a message on LinkedIn that's saying, hey, I noticed you're in this business and I'd love to connect. I'm in the business too. Would you connect with me? Whatever it takes. Maybe it's on Facebook, would be the alternative to that, would be making a friend on Facebook in specific areas. And of course, there's a multitude of different ways that we can do this. But it's basically reaching out and getting somebody's attention and seeing whether they want to play, whether they're open to having more friends, if you will. And in this case, there's vehicles that you can research on your own, and we go into more depth in this. And Jamie is a master at doing this, at finding out strategies, and she has a system for doing this for people. The second thing is, what is your message to that person? Okay, so once you get their attention, again, a lot of people just start throwing stuff on them. Do you want to do business with me? But what we need to do is slow down here for a minute. So it's like that person, in the networking event where we made eye contact with them and we rush right over and we say, hey, I've got something to sell. It's not going to work. Well, maybe it would. Like maybe you'll sell the odd thing if you're aggressive enough doing this, but are you going to build, a business that has longevity? Probably not. So the first message is, hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name's Mark. What's your name? Getting to know somebody and actually acknowledging them. Another thing I like to do in this is a gift. So if you're dealing with business, a gift could be something as simple as, this is a useful piece of information that helped me in my business. Jamie and I were talking about this yesterday. Yep. Video right now, and will continue to be so dominant as the internet and everything turns us more into a visual being, if you will. But sharing a video, and not a video about you necessarily, not a video about your business or a specific technique. Don't rush the relationship. Just something like, hey, this is really cool. It helped me. I think it applies to your specific business, industry, whatever. I think you might enjoy it too. Have a watch. Share a video with somebody. Let me take the personal example to this. Pleasure to meet you. Give somebody a compliment, right? Hey, that's a lovely dress you have on. Wow, sharp suit. Where did you get that? Finding some way to engage with somebody that's non-threatening, non-salesy, and genuine, and gives you the opportunity to get to know them better. Okay, so this is the warming phase, if you will. Next, we want to move on to the engagement. So this is where you would ask a question. Okay, so the question might be, we're thinking about doing our product in blue or red. Here are the two different color schemes that we're using. Which do you prefer? What do you think? I'd love your advice on this. It would really help me out a lot. Just off the top of my head, there's an example. There's hundreds of different questions that you could be, thousands of different questions. And again, it has to be relevant to your audience, what they're interested in, what their issues are, what their challenges are, what their goals are. Make it relevant so that it's a connector that connects the two of you together. The next level of this is obviously the education. So how can I educate? Let me give you some specific examples here on how you might be able to educate. Keep in mind, you don't want to jump here. You've gone through these other phases because now I'm open to it. You've engaged with me. You've listened to my opinion. We've had some conversation. Now I'm going to have the opportunity. You've opened the door and given me the opportunity to educate you. So part of your education, here are some different examples for you. Demonstrating or explaining a problem. So this is the problem that your audience has. Wow them. How do you wow them? With a solution. And that might be a video solution to their problem. We're getting more specific now. Another problem might be solved by wowing them with a case study. Here's a problem that one of my clients experienced and the results that I helped them achieve. Now, I want to put this out there too for how about somebody that says, I'm new to this, or I don't have a lot of experience, or I don't have case studies formed. You could use somebody else's case study. If it's applicable to your audience and it's applicable to what you do, there's no reason you can't use another story, somebody else's story. Make sense? Another way of looking at this, how about a great testimonial? Wow them with a testimonial. Maybe you've got a great review online that you can just use in its entirety. Maybe somebody's written you a testimonial letter, maybe something that's posted on your website. Use that testimonial and then build a story around that. Here was the problem, and here is the result that I helped them get. Okay, so you're educating them now about what you do, and it's about the outcome and the promise, not the, we go through this 11-step process to solve all your problems, and we take everybody through the same routine. No, it's simply keeping it at that level where it's outcome oriented. What do you want? And also, here's how I wowed somebody. So what's the problem? And then what's the outcome? The last message then in this sequence would be your irresistible, compelling offer. What makes your offer irresistible and compelling? Jamie? Anybody?
I'm sorry, Ashley had said that she had to run, so I was just chatting over there with her to say goodbye. So I missed this last part. But so your irresistible, compelling offer?
Yeah. So what would be what makes an offer irresistible and compelling?
How you can get them results, specific results, measurable results.
Yeah. So it comes back to them. So an irresistible, compelling offer, you create that by having an intimate knowledge of your audience.
Yes.
Because if you know what they really, really, really desire, if you know what they need more than anything else, and your offer promises that and it's built around that, then it becomes irresistible to them. They're compelled to talk to you and to make a decision because you've spoken their language and they have this confidence in you immediately that you know them and you know what they're up against and that you could be that resource for them. And of course, the last part of this is rinse and repeat. And as Jamie alluded to, how long did you say that person who is now becoming a client a year ago or more than that?
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yep.
So this is the other thing is often, our messaging just gets cut off too short. We put out 3 or 4 messages, nobody bites. And then, we're out of it, we're gone. So this comes back to the idea of really having a marketing system in place so that your messaging is constantly flowing and repeating and being out there and being tweaked and massaged and changed and tested so that you're always there so that you're catching people when they're ready. So I want you to get that in your mind. So instead of looking for that person who everybody's looking for, that one person who's ready right now, and then that next person who's ready right now, what if instead of doing that, you just prepared yourself and you were ready to receive people when they were ready? Different way of looking at it.
Yes. And I'll just say here too, this is all very important for that personal development, that that one-on-one connection. But you also want to start getting people over into your keeping in touch campaign, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And you can call it a newsletter, you could call it an e-zine, however you want to term it, or an autoresponder, because I've gotten a lot of business as well from just people who've been getting my monthly newsletter for a long time. And that's, that gives them the impetus to reach out.
Yes. And so you can take this and do this at many different levels. So you can literally look at this as an example of what you could use one-on-one, like that networking event.
Right.
So it could literally be person to person. You could also use this on the telephone. You could use this when you're emailing somebody. Then you could take this in terms of mass marketing. So you could put this into an automated sequence, say, that was reaching out to people via email that subscribed to a list, via LinkedIn campaign. Jamie's, again, a master at this. You could put this into a Facebook campaign. But the idea is that you're going through this cycling. You're not just stopping. And that's why point 6 is so important. Yeah. And I want to go back here to this slide.
Yeah. And also people are more likely to even willingly subscribe or give you, because nowadays people are so overwhelmed with their inboxes being filled up. They don't want just anybody. They don't want to be on every mailing list. So they're not giving out they're not opting in. Your free ebook is not so important anymore. It used to be years ago, not so much.
Yes.
People are just very leery to give out. But if you're developing this relationship over time, they're going to willingly sign up for anything that you offer because they've just been so impressed. And you can invite them to do that. That could be one of your messages. You know what? Let's keep in touch. I offer great resources. Join
Yes.
my mailing list.
And remember that, you know, the idea of having a relationship means it has to be nurtured. So we don't just go, you know, this arrow is really important. So you don't just go warm, engage, educate, then I'm going to offer until they buy. You have to go back through the cycle. So it's kind of like, and I'm trying to make this relevant, something that maybe is a little out of the business realm, but like, you know, in a personal relationship, say you had an old friend that you hung around with in high school or maybe even grade school, and you were the best of friends, the best of buddies. You wouldn't just walk up to them, you know, 20, 30 years later and say, hey, let's go away for the weekend. You'd say, hey, do you remember me?
Yeah.
And they'd have a perplexed look on your face, and then you might have to remind them a little bit. So you'd warm them up. Yeah, remember we were in grade 6 together? Remember our teacher, Mrs. So-and-so? And then they go, oh, yeah, yeah. And then you start to engage. What are you doing now? What's happening in your life? Tell me what's going on. You'd begin to educate them. Hey, here's what's going on in my life right now. And, you know, I happen to be going to this particular trip on the weekend, and I have an extra ticket, and I was looking for somebody to go with me because I really don't want to go alone. Would you be interested in joining me? So if you think about things from a personal relationship standpoint and then you extend that to business, it's the same thing. Jamie, does that fit? That example make sense?
Absolutely.
Great.
I live it every day. Yep.
Yep. So think about this in your messaging. And again, it comes back to this may be simple, but it's not necessarily easy because you have to have structure. And I know in today's day and age, we think that the quick fix is where it's at. We want that magic bullet, you know, that secret super sauce. And we just put that in a message and an offer, and the world's going to, you know, be a path to our doorway. And the problem is we're not going to be ready for them. So we're not even going to be able to accept them and open the door because there's 500 people lined up outside our door. So we got to go back and make sure we're ready. So all of these things, when you put them together, they give you confidence. So we're talking about business design here and making sure that all of the pieces work together. And
people all the time, they come to, you know, I need a new client. Like they're, you know, they need money. So they're like, I need a new client. Well, I would say, you know, just throwing this off the top of my head, go get a loan to live for a while, but build this along the way. You know, because if we had the magic wand to wave over your business and bring you new clients, you know, I'd be waving that magic wand over my business every day. But I now have a magic wand because I've built up long-term assets and long-term relationships. And, you know, it does take some time, but, you know, if your messaging resonates and that relationship resonates, more people will be more likely to feel good about giving you their money willingly. And, you know, I have people all the time who say, you know, I've been watching you for a while and I'm very impressed with how you've grown. Your business has grown. And now I want you to do what you're doing for your business, for my business.
yes,
That's my business, which is really a fun thing to get paid to do things that I love to do, which I've done for my own business. But yeah, so it's not about being, you know, I need a client, I need money right now. It is about building the relationship so that you feel good, they feel good. It's just a love fest, if you will, and you'll have long-term clients in that way.
And you'll not only that, but you'll have a lead flow because you when you've got the systems in place and you're practicing these at different levels, then now things are starting to work more in a mechanized way. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but you want to be able to, and you've heard me say this too, is you want to be able to have this stuff working for you so that you can focus on what you do best. Now, if you're a coach or a consultant, you want to be coaching and consulting people. So I would suggest to you that getting these systems built, as Jamie said, is priority one. Getting clarity on your business and building your business model is where you want to be. I think it was the New Year's when I put up a message that said, whatever you're getting right now in your business is ideally designed to produce that for you. If what you're getting is struggle, if what you're getting is, I get a few clients and then I'm dry for a long time and I panic and I have to overload my credit card and then I go there in desperation and I get another client, guess what? You've designed your business to do that.
Right.
So what I'm suggesting is go back to getting ready yourself and ready your business. So when your business is ready and it's prepared and the systems are ready, then you're ready to receive customers when they're ready. So I'm going to wrap up, and then, we've got a few minutes left. If there's any other questions or thoughts or comments, we'd love to hear about it. We appreciate you all being here. You're going to get feedback. Request for feedback is going to come at you. First of all, as soon as we kind of close down here, you'll get directed to a page. Please, please, please. We'd love your feedback. We really need it. We are on a mission to get this information out there and to help people. We're educating people. We're in that phase too. We go through that cycle ourselves. This is part of our education model. You'll get offers from us. We'd love to do business with you too. So what we need though is your feedback so that we can continue to provide good content for you and also, get to know you better and find out where your needs or wants are so that we can help you there too, because really in the end, can't wait to work with any one of you that are on this call. So we appreciate that. And we'll open the floor now if there's any questions or thoughts or comments.
Yeah, I'm going to watch for comments. In the meantime, I've just I've added into the room an offer to consult with Mark or myself, or even both of us if you want to. I want to piggyback on what Mark was just saying. A lot of these webinars are just born out of our conversations between each other. We're good friends. We kind of partner up in a lot of different ways. And we just have conversation. We go, that's a really good topic for a webinar because we're learning from the conversation and we know other people will too. So I've put into the room. I hope you can see it. Actually, give me a 1 if you can. Mark, can you see it?
I can see it. I can see it.
So click on the button that says sign up now and you can choose Mark, me, both of us, whatever you'd like. And what we're going to do here is, help you to lay out the entire structure of getting you and your business where you've always dreamed it could be. A 1-on-1 high level or 1-on-2 or however you want to do that, high level consulting and coaching session designed uniquely for you. So take advantage of that. The other offer we wanted to share with you is right now we're offering 1 month for free into our exclusive membership program, Upscale Success Strategies. It's a $97 value. And if you click on that button, you can try it out, see if you like it. We are dripping content used to be monthly. We've now transitioned it to be weekly so that you're not getting everything all at one time. Mm-hmm. It's too much. We wanted to but you can see it's a lot of stuff that we're going to be giving to you throughout. And it's every week you'll get some new content. So I wanted to share that as well. And I'm going to check and see if we have any questions. Not at this moment. And so the last thing we'll do here is I'll broadcast here to please provide your feedback.
I think I saw a comment there, the link. Oh, maybe they found it. The link to the group.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Yep. Oh, yes, Betty, we're meeting tomorrow. Yes. And where's the link to the group? Let me put that one back up here. Hold on.
Yeah, the Success Strategies group. I wanted to mention too, as Jamie said, one of the things that both Jamie and I do when you meet with us is what you're seeing here when we do these webinars and you meet with us is the real deal. This is who we are. And when we do the consults with you, we're the same people. And, I want to promise you, what we really endeavor to do, and I think we're pretty good at it, is we want to model the behavior. So when you meet with us, what we do with you is what we think you would be best suited to do with your clients and how to grow your business. And that means no tricks, no gimmicks, no magic bullet, no, beating people over the head with closing techniques and things like that. We just don't do that. We build relationships. And out of that relationship, when you're ready, we're ready to help you. So that's what we do in these consults is we determine readiness. And, as we talk together, we have this really open, hopefully intimate conversation about where you are in your business and what you're ready to do next. And that's what we try and help you reveal. We try and pull out from you what you already know. I call it releasing your full potential, because I know that inside of you and your business is the seeds and the potential to have everything you want and have that business work exactly the way you want it. So our goal in these meetings when we coach and consult with you is to bring you to that point to figure out what the next steps are for you. Whether that happens to be with us or not, we don't worry about it, because we're always ready. So we can hang around, and we're ready when you are. And therefore, please take advantage of this time that we put aside on our calendars and that we're here for you. It's high level, high value. You're getting the same coaching and consulting that we charge fees for. And we know that, because we know that if we kind of pay it forward and we work with you and give you an idea of what you can do for yourself, then that when you're ready, we know that we'll be there for you, and we know that you'll have a good feeling about that. So that when you're ready to come forward, so are we. Does that make sense? I hope I'm not rambling or.
No, that's great. And Betty, did you get the link? Just a 1 in the chat if you did, or if you're still in the room. Yes, perfect. Okay, great.
I see it up at the top there too. So
yeah,
please,
if I can just comment, Betty, I hope you don't mind. If I can, I was just sharing about this client that came from 4 years ago. Betty was a client of mine when I first started my business way back when. And we've kept in touch. She's referred people to me. In fact, I was alluding to another person. This is her, one of. And she reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and we're going to have a consultation tomorrow. And I'm going to share with her how I've evolved my business. And, we may, in fact, work together. Don't know. But anyway, that's awesome. Yes, we were both starting businesses, she says. Yeah. So that's a perfect example of what we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In addition to the story I had shared about a new client that I got this week, this is, another relationship taking to another level.
Yes.
So,
excellent.
Yeah.
And I think we're at time, and we try and be thorough and complete and follow through on our promises, which is starting on time and finishing on time. So at that point, I'd like to suggest that we say goodbye, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. And I look forward to speaking with you one-on-one if you'd like to dive into a particular issue, or you're stuck or struggling, or you just have a goal that you want to achieve and you don't know what the next steps are. Let's get together and talk about it.
Thank you so much, everybody. Mark, thank you for another amazing presentation. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you all very soon. Look out for new events. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
you